So we have two more songs that we're going to do. As you can see on the screen, we have one of them that is already very loud, and another one that is not very loud. It's not uncommon for a guy that's mixing a record to do it at very loud levels. Basically just as loud as a master would be. And to use some mastering processing on the output bus or the mix bus while they're mixing, or at least when they're done with it. Sometimes this has to do with getting mix approvals. And people are going to take that mix and compare it to their favorite albums that have been mastered and finished. And their mix is going to be 6 to 10 dB quieter if it hasn't been mastered in a lot of cases, if you're comparing it to stuff that's been made in the past few years. A lot of times you get mixes that look and sound as if they're already mastered, but it's just the mix. When I'm doing mastering for somebody, we generally discuss all this stuff before getting started. And we'll talk about the fact that, are you using bus processing already? Yes, I've got this EQ and that compressor and that limiter and this plugin and that thing already on there. And it's like, well, where are we going to go from there if it's already been heavily processed? Especially with loudness maximizers or limiters. If you have an EQ that you like the sound of and it's doing something that you like, no reason not to put it on there. If you have a really nice compressor and you like the compression that you're doing with it and you know what you're doing with it and it sounds good and everybody's approved the mix, I would rather you leave that on there because that's the mix that everybody's approved. You take it off and it's going to completely change it. So even if it's been a compressor, a lot of times I'll just take the mix that they have and we'll discuss it and everything, but there's no reason in going back and completely changing the mix by bypassing all that stuff. Limiters and loudness maximizers are another deal because in most cases the idea of a limiter or a loudness maximizer is to just increase the loudness, to maximize the loudness. Whereas those other processors are changing something about the sound, limiters and loudness maximizers are really about making things loud, even though making them loud tends to change the sound. So anyway, the second mix that we're doing is one of these mixes that's clearly been processed with some kind of bus processing. The fact that I can zoom in on it and it retains this square wave kind of look is telling me that it's been through loudness maximization. If it was clipping, sometimes people will clip the output of a digital or analog mix, and when you zoom in like this, if it's been made as large as it can go and you start zooming in on it. When I get to a level like this, I can see that there's still peaks and valleys to these waveforms. If these peaks come up and just go flat across and then down and then flat across, that means it's been clipped. I can tell this has gone through a peak limiter and it isn't just clipped because when I zoom in on it, I can still see waveforms. This waveform in particular, I happen to notice right now, that looks like it's been through a peak limiter. Normally this waveform probably went up like that, but what this peak limiter did is said keep it level, and so it goes back under. So I can see a peak limiter actually being used on this little cycle right there. If it was clipping, digital clipping or analog clipping, you wouldn't get this ripple up there where I can see the limiter hitting it. It would just go flat, because when you clip, you're going up above digital zero. You go above digital zero, and what gets recorded is a flat line because nothing exists above digital zero. A limiter, when you hit that threshold, it says, okay, the waveform would have normally gone up above this threshold. We're going to keep it right here and modulate it so it isn't just a square wave. So I can see some limiter happening right there. Anyway, point being that this has already been loudness maximized. So the first thing we're going to do is have to drop the level. It's already at 0.1. It's right below clipping. So the first thing I'm going to do is go in and digitally drop the level by 3 dB. Unlike the other two songs that we're doing, this one, these last two we're not going to use the analog board. We're just going to use plugins and kind of relate how plugins and your system can be used to master something. I don't have the advantages that I have when I'm using plugins that I do when I'm using analog gear because of the circuit, the tubes, the transformers. With a song like this, if I was mastering it the way that I normally would, using my analog console in more of a hybrid approach, more than likely I would still need to drop the level coming into the system like I did here. But at that point, I can use my analog gain. I have clean analog gain here. I have very clean coming out of this unit. I have tube output gain here. I have straight up passive attenuation on this one. So there's different ways of playing in and out of these gain stages and the tubes and the transformers and the circuits that are in them to, I don't want to say reshape the audio, but to build body up from inside the audio, as opposed to using a compressor to push down waveforms to build the body up. You can build it up using transformers and tubes and the circuitry. You don't have that option in the plugin world, right? So this next song is going to be a little bit more correctional, and the stuff that I'm going to be doing is more about improving the sound without making it harsh and ugly. When something's been through a loudness maximizer, a peak limiter or a plug-in limiter, like I said, the whole idea is to make it louder. So generally, you have a threshold that just goes down and the volume goes up. And you have a ceiling, and it's never going to pass that ceiling. If you've already passed through one of those types of processors and pushed it to the level of almost a master, or pushed it to the level of a master, you've already squeezed out the headroom, the dynamic range. This transients and the movement used to move, and now it's moving like this. There's nowhere to use a compressor where it isn't just going to make it sound mushy. If I add equalization after it's been through a loudness maximizer, generally what you get is harshness. You get, no matter what you do, it adds some kind of harshness because we've already taken those waves and pushed them down. And in that example I was showing you with that waveform there, you can see where the wave would normally go up, it was being limited. That ripple at the top there is caused somewhat by distortions. So if we start EQing and boosting this like I would a really nice clean mix, and by the way, this mix sounds really good. I don't mean to be saying what I'm saying in reference to how it sounds. I'm talking in reference to the technical aspects of it. If I do anything else to it technically, it's more than likely going to start to get harsh. It's already a good sounding mix. So what we need to do is figure out how to detail it without making it harsh, getting the levels up to where we want it, and we can't use compressors, and we've already done a lot of limiting, so any limiting we do is going to be very little. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and approach this track. Get my little loop set here so it just plays for me, and I'm going to give it a listen here just first off.
Tell me why you're paralyzed in place when the night falls, when the night falls. Tell me, baby, do you feel afraid when the night falls, when the night falls? Come on, baby, kiss me when the night falls. A teenage love dream in reality. Wherever from the heat, I'm still following you. Tell me why you're paralyzed in place when the why you're paralyzed in place when the
I'm hearing here, and it isn't bad, but I do want to point it out because it happens when I receive mixes that have already gone through this kind of processing. There's this buildup going into the chorus. The chorus hits right where my timeline is, right there. This is right before it is a build up to it and then a little dropout. So this should punch. When it hits that chorus, it should hit because it's got this little dropout before it. But if you listen to the voice throughout this part and how loud the voice is right here compared to when this hits, it goes, ramps up, and then the vocal goes la da da and pushes down. If it hadn't been through compression and loudness maximizing already, it wouldn't be doing that. And we can make it loud and not have it do that. So anyway, I want to play that through again one more time. Listen to how there's a build up to the chorus here, but this little vocal part where it drops out is louder than the vocals in the chorus.
oh, when the sweat drips from the heat, I'm still following you. Tell me why you're paralyzed.
Tell me why, and it goes down. So sometimes that happens when you are mastering by loudness and having to make a certain loudness level. That'll happen by simply the nature of compression and limiting is pressing the loud stuff down to make the quieter stuff louder. So when that chorus hits, it's running into that ceiling where the other part doesn't have all the music, so it's able to breathe and gets louder, and then that chorus comes in and shoves it all down. So we may have to do some dynamic editing and actually lower those areas either before or after we do our processing in order for that to hit and sound correct. What's this?
Following you. Tell me why you're paralyzed in
Right there too, her voice gets pushed down when it comes in and it should be exploding with the music.
Tell me why you're paralyzed in
So, why don't we do this real quick and just lower this little area. I'm going to lower it by an additional dB, and I'm going to perfect these edits in a minute. I just want to get the level correct first.
Tell me why you're paralyzed.
Go another quarter of a dB.
Tell me why you're paralyzed in
That's a little better.
I'm following you. Oh, by the skin of my teeth, I am following you. Tell me why you're paralyzed in
That's better. Let's do that to these others too.
Tell me why you're
I can even hear it going up right here. You can hear the compressor releasing right in this area. While the oh happens, it goes oh and gets louder.
Tell me why you're
So that's going to take a little fancy editing, to be honest with you, because of that breath that builds up there. And this is not exactly the interesting part of mastering to most people. The edits that I'm making there, I've actually kind of worked out a crossfade that's pretty much transparent as long as you don't make it super long. So I'm not spending a ton of time perfecting those. I know they're going to be good, and I'd like to get to the knob turning part of this for you. The editing part is usually not what people think of when they think of mastering, but there's a lot of editing that goes on. Little things like this that a lot of people aren't aware of that make a big difference. And although the knob turning and everything is fun, I enjoy editing myself. I enjoy when I finally hit the one that works and everything just sounds correct, and there's a whole bunch of editing going on, but it just sounds right. Anyway, I enjoy doing that myself.
tell me
So I can hear the compressor releasing right here, so I'm going to do a longer fade than I normally, or longer crossfade between these than I normally would. So right where that's releasing, I want it to go into this lower volume.
tell me why you're tell me why you're paralyzed. Tell me why you're paralyzed.
All right, that's better. How does that come out?
If you miss the nightfall, do you feel it in the streets?
That's good. And I don't see any other areas here where we're going to drop back to the quiet part.
Give me one. Oh, tell me you do. Tell me why you're paralyzed.
Except for that. So we'll go ahead and stick it right here. Notice I'm not editing right here on the downbeat of it. This is that excitement before it hits, that "Rah!" So I usually try to place my edits right before that breath before a downbeat. It kind of hides the edits before the downbeat. So if there is something that isn't perfect, a lot of times you won't ever even hear it because that downbeat's hitting right after it. Other times, it's not exactly the case, but that's usually where I try to hide them. Hang on, that ain't the right one.
Tell me why. Oh, do tell me you do. Tell me why you're better.
Too much.
You really want me. Oh, tell me you do. Tell me why you're better. Oh, tell me you do. Tell me why you're better in place. Tell me why you're better in place. When the
All right. So that is 3.
oh, tell me.
All right, since I have those dynamic edits in there now, I'm gonna group this all into one piece so they don't get screwed up. And now I've got my edits down. Re-loop that guy. All right. Now we'll start with a little bit of processing on here. Once again, we can't do a ton because it's already been limited. In other words, a lot of it's already been done already, and any EQ kind of stuff we're gonna have to be careful with it not becoming weird and harsh. So we're not gonna be able to do as much with this as we would some other tracks. I'm gonna get out my little stereo width thing from Sadie, which I like, and add a little bit of that.
Everlasting place. When the night falls, when the night falls, tell me, baby, do you feel afraid? When the night falls, when the night falls, come on, baby, kiss me when the night falls. You never make it if you miss the nightfall. Come on, baby, kiss me when the night falls. You never make it if you.
Next thing I'm going to add in there is another little correctional thing, and actually this might be better in front of the stereo width, but we're going to try it out in back of it first. And that is a little bit of de-essing. There's 2 different ways to accomplish it in the mastering world, and that is a shelf de-esser or a bandwidth de-esser. A shelf means that it's just like an EQ. It's going to shelf up and control all of the high end or a certain bandwidth of the high end. The SPL de-essers are a very wide bandwidth, and I can't control the center frequency of it. But what it does is use phase cancellation as opposed to compression and dynamics to do the de-essing. So it tends to be very, very subtle in what it does. And I think we can get some of the harshness off the high end by doing this.
Everlasting place. When the night falls, when the night falls, tell me, baby, do you feel afraid? When the night falls, when the night falls, come on, baby, kiss me when the night falls. You never make it if you miss the nightfall. Come on, baby, kiss me when the night falls. You never make it if you miss the nightfall. Do you feel it in the streets? Is it you lost in place? When the night falls, when the night falls, tell me, baby, do you feel afraid? When the night falls, when the night falls, come on, baby, kiss me when the come on, baby, when the night falls, come on, baby.
So the harshness I'm trying to clean up, I can hear really good right here in the snare drum, and that snare buildup. I've got it bypassed right now, so here's without.
When the night falls, when the night falls, come on, baby.
Just as it gets to the end and Come On Baby comes back in, I can hear the snare drum distorting.
When the night falls, when the night falls, come on, baby, kiss me when
And while I don't think we can clean the distortion out of that, I can make it smoother, generally, by doing this. Okay, that cleans that up just a little bit, and hopefully will hold back some of the harshness. We'll more than likely have to check on that in a minute. Next, I'm gonna go back in and use the UAD Precision Enhancer, our maximizer, one more time and see if the harmonics on there will add some detail without making it harsh. Liking what that's doing at all. This is a Dangerous Audio. They have a hardware version of this EQ, and it's just shelving. It's called the Bax EQ, it's a Baxandall type equalizer. Similar to what I was doing with the massive passive and the high end on that first song that we did. It's a shelving EQ, but it's not traditional shelves. They're technically bells that just have extremely wide bandwidths, making them essentially shelving EQs. So if I pick the frequency 361 right there, the center of the bell is at 361 hertz, but the bandwidth is such that it stretches out all the way to the low end. And very far up into the high end as well. So subtle EQ movements on this can make quite a big difference. I would love to have a hardware version. The low end on it is very warm, and the high end is very subtle, and I might be able to smooth some of that harshness off with this guy. Okay, so what I did there was bring down the high end by about a dB. And it's a bit much, but I know that once I stick a limiter on the end of this, it's going to brighten that back up a little bit, and hopefully we'll be able to get the brightness back without the harshness. So let's give that a try. Let's add a limiter to the end of this. And because I'm trying not to make the sound get rougher or edgier, what I'm going to do is use the PSP limiter, because it's a clean limiter. Doesn't have a lot of distortion artifacts. Okay, I think that that did what I was hoping it would do. Now I'm gonna add an EQ and do a little bit of EQ to kind of thin out some of the low mids, probably around 250 or so. And then there's a bit of a mid-rangey thing going on that I'd like to try to smooth over. And if I can do those two things, I think we'll be able to get this back up to level, make it sound pretty nice. I'm gonna use a different EQ than the PSP. Okay, so I pulled open the Ozone equalizer here, which is an extremely advanced equalizer. It can be both analog, which is a minimum phase EQ, or a digital, which is not a linear phase EQ, although when you're working with the bands of the digital version, they give you this phase control here, which can go from linear phase to, I don't know, 100% phase. I'm not sure what exactly the percentages there mean. But so each band can be a variation of minimum phase or linear phase or somewhere in between in the digital version. Another cool thing that I don't know of any analog EQs that do this is, let's find and boost this guy. That would be a normal parametric or bell-shaped EQ, where the frequency you choose is in the middle and it kind of boosts out from that. The bells here have proportional Q, a normal bell, and that has to do with the Q control and how this works. There's that, and then there's the proportional Q, which keeps the same Q or bandwidth no matter the gain. So if I boost this way up here and I've got that bandwidth going, it keeps the same width no matter my boost. So yeah, there's the proportional Q. As I change the gain, the width will stay the same. Does not happen on a standard parametric filter. The bandwidth also changes with the gain. And then there's this third option that the Ozone EQ gives you now called band shelf, which is actually really cool, and I would like to see in a lot more pieces of gear, where it comes up and instead of going to a pointed bell, it adds like a shelving here, so you can EQ a nice wide area without having to use a shelf. And the Q on there makes it tighter or really big. So anyway, I don't use that a lot, but it does come in handy when I do use this equalizer. It's a cool little option. We're going to use the analog version and see what we can do as far as cleaning out some of the low mids just a little bit and some of the mid-range. I don't know, it's something between like 900 and 2K that it seems to be excessive to me. Let's give it a listen. So I found that area there, 308 hertz, and I'm dipping it out by about a dB. What I'm listening for when I'm doing that is, and I'm sweeping through those frequencies, there's always a certain place where you hear the bass guitar come through and the kick drum come through. And I'm looking for the place where I don't change the guitars, but I can hear the notes of the bass, boom, 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 and the actual notes playing instead of just this big weight of bass going on underneath the music. There's a certain place, if it's needed, this isn't some general rule. None of the things we're talking about here are general rules. They're general rules if the song needs it. So in this particular one, there's some kind of build-up in the low mids, not a huge build-up, but enough to where I'm hearing kind of a large bass. I can't get the distinct notes. This is helping that out. So that's what I'm listening for when I'm doing those sweeps in that low mid area, is where does the bass come through with notes? Okay? I'm going to do the same thing in the mid-range frequency and see if I can get rid of some of that honk. So I'm going to grab another band here, And I'm going to do this a different way because I'm now looking for an offending frequency that I'm not liking, that's sticking out a little too much. I'm actually going to boost. Instead of cutting down and finding where that bass is going to peek through in this window that I'm making, I'm going to do the opposite of that. I'm going to go exaggerate the frequency that I'm not liking to find it. So these are just different methods of focusing an EQ. It's right on that note when she says falls. And once it's not her voice, it's something with the way the instruments all build up together. When it's in that note, night falls, it gets honky and sounds like she's singing through a tube or something. As I was sweeping through there, it went whoo, and I could hear it really, really loudly. So I'm gonna go there, find that exact frequency again, and back it off. When I was doing the bass cut right here and listening to it, and I had every single frequency, meaning usually I start somewhere around 350 and go down to about 250, and that's usually where that bass mud is, somewhere in that area. When I'm doing that, a lot of times with this EQ or this EQ, they have selected frequencies. So it goes from 390 to 270. In this one, it goes from 300 to 311, or 311 to 300, 293, 277. Generally, those frequencies are chosen because they are musical frequencies. Notes are frequencies. Frequencies are notes. So when you hear somebody say we're going to tune to A440, which is concert tuning, A440 means that that A in the first register of a piano, the A is 440 hertz. So if you play a 440 hertz tone, you're basically playing an A note. When you have selected frequencies on an EQ like that, a lot of the times the EQ frequencies are based on the notes that are closest to them and how they're going to affect those notes. And not every EQ is built that way. But anyway, when I was doing that bass dip, I was going, man, I wish I had my selected frequencies that I'm used to. This frequency, that frequency, that frequency. And I know what's going to happen when they hit those positions. And I was missing that when I was looking for that bass cut. When I was looking for this honky note in the mid-range, it was the opposite. I was glad that I had each frequency there as it went by, 800, 801, 802, 803, because it was a weird multiple of a certain note that was honking out. And I don't think I would be able to find that exact note if I had specific frequency steps that I do in my analog EQs that I don't have in the digital world. So anyway, I know that that honk is somewhere right around here. I'm gonna listen to that one more time and make sure I got the right area, and then we will dip it out enough to take care of it. That's it right there, 931. So now I'm gonna make that guy 0. I'm gonna listen to it again, and I'm gonna dip it out enough to get rid of the honk a little bit. As far as the different types of EQ here, I was just checking that out, and I'm getting the best out of the proportional cue for what I'm trying to do here. Putting it on the band shelf takes out more than just that one note. It actually dips her vocals down in it, where the regular proportional cue one is not doing that. I'm going to tighten that up just a little. But anyway, I'll show you that. So here I'm dipping out that honky note that you can hear on the word falls. On this one, it basically takes the vocal down by like a half dB roughly. All right, I think that sounds good as far as cleaning those couple of things up. Excuse me. We chilled out some of the high end with that de-esser before, so I'm going to put back just a teeny tiny bit. No, we didn't use a de-esser. Yeah, we did. We had a de-esser working there as well, huh? Tiny bit of both of them to smooth that high end out. Do we need... gonna go ahead and get rid of the de-esser. After adding the other stuff and doing the EQ moves that I made, I could hear it sucking the snare drum out and actually lowering the high end, whereas this one is a static control. It isn't a moving control, and I was liking what it did by itself better. Change. Something in the phase happens there. Like the bass pans out to the sides there.
Dancing in the background.
That's not a bad thing. It's kind of cool that it changes and it isn't a phase thing. I thought it was at first that they went out of phase. But...
That's fun. I haven't got camera.
Sorry. All right, so it wasn't a phase thing. It was just the bass kind of pans out to the sides, which is actually kind of cool. All right, so we've kind of calmed down that honkiness a bit. We've cleaned the bass out just a hair, and I ended up adding just a tiny shelf to the low end as well. It's at 80 hertz, and it's only 0.2, but it was more the shape of this that it was this little bump here that I was going for, not as much of that as the bump, and it just adds a nice attack to the bass. Very little, but it's there. It does even more during that part. Anyway, it puts a nice roll on the notes to me. All right, I was putting a shelf here before. Instead, what I did was take this high-end shelf that I made and dip it back a half dB. Constantly compromising, going back and forth. So now, I want to try one last thing here. Once again, with this particular song, there ain't a lot we can do as far as boosting and enhancing without things getting weird and harsh on us. But I think that that little dip I did in the mid-range took away a lot of the harshness that's caused. So I'm gonna try and get my level with this because it'll add a little bit of bite to it as well, as opposed to getting the level here. And once again, I have it right around 1.5. So here we are with the first limiter I used. Once again, the snare drum totally told me which one of those to use. It got loud and harsh with the ozone limiter. This guy's pretty good at keeping it steady. A good way to use these, I'm not using it necessarily right now, but if I'm really wanting to make something, if I got a great mix and all I need to do is make it louder, there's a correct way to set up a peak limiter. They don't all give you the option to do this easily. But there's a way, generally you turn the threshold on a peak limiter and the volume just goes up. If you want to hear what it does without the volume going up, in other words, hearing how much can I turn the volume up without the limiter starting to change things. So with the PSP limiter, there's a button right here next to the output gain called auto. And what that does is, if I have my input gain boosted by 1.5 dB, the output gain is automatically being turned down by 1.5 dB. So as I turn the volume up, it does this with the output. And what that does is let me hear the limiting without the loudness boost. So if what I needed to do was make a song as loud as I can make it without changing it, what I would do is turn on this auto mode, or if you don't have an auto mode on the particular plugin you're using, or the particular limiter you're using, you just, if I have 1.5 on the input, I put minus 1.5 on the output. It's pretty simple. This one gives me a knob that's going to or a button that's automatically going to adjust that for me. So basically, I can start. And there's a certain point where you start hitting, starts burying the snare drum and burying the vocal and just distorting and sounding like crap. What you do is back it off to the point where it doesn't do that, turn that auto off, and you've now increased the volume as much as you can without changing the sound of it, okay? I'm gonna do a variation of that here and only raise it some. All right, so we were able to get 2 dB out of that without causing any excessive distortion. What I want to check is I'm going to bypass my limiter real quick, and I'm running a stereo width, dipping the high end with a shelf there, and then a tiny bit of correctional EQ. Before I go ahead and print this, what I want to do is make sure that the level going into my limiter is as loud as it can go without clipping. Since this had already been through a loudness maximizer, I lowered the level on the source mix so that the EQing and stereo width processing that I did didn't cause it to go into clipping. Now that I've got that done and sounding the way I want, I can go back over to my original clip and raise it. Since we're talking about digital here and not going through different circuits that are going to affect things depending on the level going into them, with an EQ, a digital EQ, you're not really going to change things by giving it a different level. It's doing a calculation. Not the same with a compressor or a limiter because they're doing stuff based on dynamics, but an equalizer, a digital EQ, isn't gonna react differently by driving level into it or not, unless it's clipping. So what I'm gonna do is turn my limiter off for a second, go back to my source file with all the other plugins on and raise its level until it's just about clipping. That way I'm getting as much level as I can get without having to use the limiter to get level. That makes sense? Even though what I did, I should clarify that with the EQ that I'm doing, I'm lowering the high end here. I'm lowering around 300 something on this band. I'm lowering around 900 something on this band. Even though the fact that I'm dipping something could cause it to clip. Even though what I've done is cutting on my EQs, that can allow larger waveforms from the lower frequencies to now reach their full potential and clip and cause peaking. So even though I'm doing cut EQ, which is essentially lowering the volume in these EQ bands, it can still cause it to get louder in volume based on the frequencies that you're messing with. So don't think that just because you're cutting something with an EQ that you're lowering its volume, especially if you're cutting things in the bass. It could cause it to clip if you're sitting right at the edge of distortion. Since I've got all my EQ done, I'm going to go in and see where my peak level is at and raise the original file now just under clipping so that we can get all the level that we can without distortion. And it looks like I got roughly 2 dB, so I'm going to take this. And in relative mode, even though I did some level changes in this, relative mode is going to keep all those level changes throughout everything I have selected there. So we're going to raise this by 2 dB. We're going to go back down a half dB because we're right at the edge there. So once again, with this already being through a limiter, most things we're going to do to it in an all plug-in realm are just going to make things harsher. So I've done a little bit of cleanup EQ. We made it just a little bit wider and given it some space between the sounds and pretty much put the level back to where it was, maybe just a tick louder. If I was being forced to push level on this and bring it louder and louder and louder, one thing I might try is to stick another limiter and have 2 limiters in succession, usually different limiters. And if I'm pushing this one by 2 dB, I might use 2 different limiters at 1 dB each, meaning neither of them is doing a ton of limiting. Both of them are doing a little bit, and there's sometimes, once again, it's a compromise. You're playing off the artifacts by using 2 limiters instead of 1 versus the artifacts of doing a whole bunch of limiting on one plugin. So there's a trade-off there. Nobody's telling me I got to make this as loud as the sun, so we're going to call it a day with what we got here, I think. Yeah, it's a pretty loud master already. One thing I do want to check one more time real quick is the verses, this intro and that intro. I want to make sure that they're not too loud now that we've done additional limiting. Yeah, they still have a fullness that fills them out a lot better.
By the skin of my teeth, I am following you. Tell me why you're paralyzed.
It's another one of those, huh? Oh, that one's already been. All right, I think we're all right with that. Okay, so I'm going to capture this one up to the top. Track there. And my source mix is on the bottom, master's on the top. So going to capture this one up top now. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna bypass all my plugins and just look at before and after without the plugins running.
Never make it if you miss the night. Oh, yeah. Ooh, oh, do you really want me? Oh, tell me you do.
Yeah, so I filled it out a little bit, cleaned it out just a little bit, saving the mixers on those in case revisions are needed. I can recall that mixer easy enough. So anyway, if you have a track that's been loudness processed like that, it does make a compromise on the mastering stage, mainly just the limiters, the loudness maximization stuff. EQs, compressors, that's more of a taste thing, but the loudness part is a technical thing that can't be undone. Once it's been through a peak limiter, there's no unpeak limiting it, and it's anything after that usually just makes it harsh. So anyway, that would be how to battle that as much as possible. Usually the use of de-essers or something like that comes into play.